recruitment, in terms of coaching staff, in terms of the chairman, the head of sport, all this kind of stuff. It's very quiet, and I think Celtic fans, I don't know if you guys agree with me, that they're starting to get a wee bit tetchy. That they've seen this movie before. They're a wee bit concerned. The time is ticking. Celtic are back for pre-season training the end of this week, and I think the fear is, and the question is in this podcast is are Celtic sleepwalking into this new campaign? What do you reckon?
I mean, how many times have we had this discussion before? It just seems as if we're having it year on year, pretty much over the last 5, 6, 7 years, maybe even longer. I think, like you say, Celtic fans are getting tetchy. Maybe that's just one way to describe it. I think they're getting extremely agitated. They have been over a number of years now, with the club's kind of moving at a snail's pace and the lack of conviction in the transfer market, especially kind of early doors. You look at title across the city at Rangers, they're getting their ducks in a row. They've got a new manager. They've got the managers. By the way, the managers even get a backroom staff in place. Who would have thought that? Yeah. They've got Lawrence Shanklin, probably the best striker in Scotland, in the door. And obviously there's talk about Ross McCrory coming in. Hearts as well, they're kind of moving to find replacements, about to appoint a new manager. They're spending money as well and bringing signings through. So, Hearts and Rangers are, they're making inroads for the new season. They're preparing, but at the minute, as I say, we'll probably touch upon it later on, Celtic are actually down 3 crucial members of the backroom team. Martin O'Neill doesn't take training, but as things stand, he could well be taking training on Friday. He's meant to be the figurehead that oversees it, and he leads. And Gavin Strachan was the one who led training for most of last season, supported by Sean Maloney and Mark Fotheringham. But as things stand, Gavin Strachan's left for West Brom, and there's no agreement in sight with Maloney or Fotheringham. It's unnecessary chaos, I think, from Celtic, and they just never really seem to learn from their mistakes. I think there's been a lot of bold promises that have been made. From Brian Wilson, who regular listeners know that, it might not be a popular opinion, but I've actually praised Brian Wilson. I think he's been a lot more forefront. You look at Michael Nicholson, the chief executive, I can't remember last time we heard from him, other than a pre-recorded Celtic TV interview. At least Brian Nicholson has been facing the cameras. He has been a bit more forthright. He has been sitting down with the club's channels and addressing issues like the end of, the final day against Hearts, defending the club. Yeah,
that's not. These guys need to sit down with the press. They need to sit down with the media. I mean, I know that we get a hard time, but sit in the club channel and say what you want to say. I mean, that Brian Wilson, I think, is a good guy. I think you're right. He's a politician. That Hearts thing was an absolute masterstroke in diversion and distraction. I mean, it was interesting stuff, but didn't no meat in the bone of what's actually going on at Celtic. They need to sit down in front of the people who are asking the questions.
Yeah, exactly. So as I was going to say that, I was going to counter that by saying, so while he does deserve at least a bit of credit for doing that, he has also delivered a lot of kind of bold promises in that time as well. I'm just looking at some of them. The club have promised to learn from the mistakes for last season, to improve recruitment and invest in analytics. In a minute, there's not even a head of recruitment, and there's been no players that have been signed, and we're ticking closer to, as I say, the club returning for pre-season on Friday. They said there's going to be a boardroom refreshment. As far as I can see, Tom Allison is the only member that's left in the last 3-4 months. We've got an interim chairman, as we mentioned there, and Brian Wilson. Is he going to be the full-time chairman? What's happening there? Chairman's a pretty important role at a football club. You look at the stadium as well. I think a lot of fans have... Years ago, I think they sent out a fan survey to season ticket holders, and they eventually released the results at some point last season. And one of the main things was about upgrading various facilities in the stadium. Have they acted on those results? I don't think so. And also, they've given Martin O'Neill, they've promised to give Martin O'Neill the best possible chance going into the next season, the new season. But as I say, there's no backroom staff. So I think there just needs to be... They need to get a move on, quite frankly. I know it's still early days, it's still only the 24th of June, but they really need to get a move on because it's as things stand, there's absolutely no way that Celtic are going into this season is in the best possible conditions as it should be.